Hello, welcome back to the Reaper. So, this is the first in the series of cockpit explanation videos. This is the F-15C, which is probably the simplest, or among the simplest. First of all, to say it is a low fidelity model, not a high fidelity model, so the amount of detail is low. If you don't know what that means, then we've done a small video, the difference between low fidelity and high fidelity models, find it in our educational section. Without further ado, we're going to blast off and start looking at the things that that work on this cockpit. So first of all, this whole bank on the left here, apart from the thrust lever that moves forwards and backwards when the engine is on, this is all essentially fake. Nothing works there. It's just there as eye candy. Let's look right. Essentially, I believe all of this is just fake. It's just eye candy. It's a low fidelity model. Now let's look at the front main panel. The radio is fake, isn't it, guys? So let's look at some of the systems that do work in this model. So if we look down at this MFD at the bottom left here, this is our ordnance control panel or display panel. Now it should have multiple screens, but it's just a single screen because it's a simple model. Also, all the buttons around here are not pressable. Instead, you have to control this system by, well, in fact, you can't really control anything. This is purely to be looked at. It just gives you a display, a simplified display of what is in the real aircraft. And as you can see, it tells you your ordnance. It tells you we've got AIM 9 sidewinders on the outer wings and AIM 120 Charlies in the other 6 positions. It tells us our chaff and our flares. It tells us where our fuel tanks are. You can see left and right, and a few other bits that I don't actually know, but that's what that does. And for all intents and purposes, it kind of works. It at least displays it. It's not interactive though. This is interactive. This is our pulse Doppler intercept radar display. It shows what the radar in the front of the nose cone shows you. Now I'm not going to go into this because I've done a big half-hour video in our educational section. If you're interested, go and have a look at that. This is all just eye candy. This doesn't do anything as far as I know. Maybe some of these lights come on, but essentially it doesn't do anything. Let's just look over the right here. Here is our RWR display panel. It's not interactive, but it does show a display, a full working display. I'm not going to show what it does, but again, we've got a half-hour generic RWR video in our educational section. Go and have a look if you want to have a look. Just very quickly, it shows radar threats. That's what it does, and it does work. Everything in this panel doesn't do anything. Right, more stuff that does. This is our Mach meter. Now we're not going anywhere, so I can't really show you it per se. Also, I don't have a mouse pointer, which is annoying, but it tells you our Mach. So as that needle goes round, the outer ring is showing amount of knots times 100, and in a small inner display that you can just see 0.5, that is the Mach. 0.5 Mach, 1.0 Mach, and that will go all the way up to 2.5 Mach. It's kind of hard to explain it sitting here, but this works and it shows you the Mach. That's all I can say. Angle of attack meter. That's where it is in the F-15. Look how far down it is. That is completely useless, guys, having an alpha meter there. It's got to be right on the HUD. I suppose it is on the HUD, isn't it? Scratch that.
That would be why.
It is on the HUD. Yep, that was silly. Angle of attack meter, that I believe does work. It shows angle of attack, as simple as that. This is the acceleration. This is the G meter. So this is telling you how many Gs it's pulling. It does work, but it also shows it on the HUD there. So it's a steam gauge backup. This is our attitude indicator. It's not interactive. You can't press these knobs and stuff, but it does work. It does show you a realistic attitude of the aircraft. These small controls here do not work. They are eye candy. This here is the HSI. What does that stand for, Skye?
Horizontal situation indicator.
Yeah, which cap knows is a compass. It tells you which way you're going. It works, but is not interactive. You can't press these buttons.
The main difference between a compass and an HSI is that an HSI will allow you to display waypoint direction on it.
Down here, I've never even looked down here in the groin area. There's knots and altitude. Are they backup steam gauges? And attitude. So these are backup stuff, and none of these buttons work down here. These buttons here, I don't think do anything. I may stand corrected, but I don't think these do anything. This button at the top here, that one does do something. It tells you whether a signal that's being received on, I think, the RWR there is from a aircraft or a ground-based emitter. So that does do something. These little ones here, I think, don't do anything. Right, and we're on to our final bottom right main panel. We have altitude here, shown in feet, and that does work perfectly, although you can't reset it barometric and whatever. Can you? I don't think you can you?
Negative. Not.
Negative, no, that's fine. Which is very annoying in the F-15. It'd be lovely to have that. Anyway, sync rate gauge, I believe that does work, although again, trying to look at it all the way down there is almost impossible, and I don't think there's anything on the hard I may stand corrected. So anyway, that's that. Here, there's 12 things there, so I'm guessing that's a clock, and I'm sure it doesn't work. Oh, I can check. Stand by. Wow, blow me. That clock works, guys. I didn't know that. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it set to the correct time?
It's set to the correct time of game time. That's pretty sick. I didn't know that. Anyway, RPM gauges of each engine. Left engine, right engine just tells you how fast, obviously, the turbine is spinning. Oh, sorry, no, that's I got that wrong. It's percent RPM. So it's not the actual RPM like in a car engine. So 100% is just as fast as it can spin. It doesn't mean 100 RPMs. So that's something we have to look out for, obviously, to make sure our engines are spinning and windmilling or whatever. We've got to know. Oh, and we can also use it to set power levels. If we say we want to set 80% power, then that's what we do. We get 80% RPM. That's what we mean. Here are our engine temperature gauges left and right. I think that's measured at the turbine. Would you guys think that's right? Because that's a critical area, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
So there's
usually engine gas temperature. Yeah. So it's the air coming out of the turbine.
Roger. So engine gas temperature probably around the turbine area times 100 degrees. I think maximum is usually about 800 degrees for various nickel alloys or whatever they use in these planes. I don't really know, but it's something you do have to keep an eye on. They work. That's all you need to know. Fuel flow, very important gauges. They do work and they are accurate. So how much fuel is flowing to each engine per hour. It's very useful especially if you're running lower fuel, to calculate how much fuel you need to burn over the next hour, or how to set your RPMs to get the correct fuel rate for saving fuel, etc. Here, nozzle positions, these are very important. Again, they're right down the bottom, really hard to see, which is annoying. This is how I personally tell whether my afterburners are on or off, for instance, because if the afterburners come on, this will shoot right up to 100% or near 100%. And if you're a military power, which is not afterburners, then it will shoot down to 0%. So if I'm flying, that's how I tell what my engines are really doing. So these I use all the time. Right, up here, I wonder if these work or not. HYD on the right-hand side.
I saw the hydraulics, yeah. I don't think they're fully modeled.
Roger, I see that the needles look like they're wiggling a bit, so they might. We're unsure whether these are fully modeled.
You will notice if you roll forward and apply the brakes that they will suddenly change.
Roger, so they possibly are modeled, these hydraulics. I've never actually looked at it before. Why is there two of them? One per engine? Or?
There's separate
one
hydraulic
per
systems,
rear brake.
yeah.
Right, okay, fine. And we've also got another hydraulic below that. I've never even looked at these myself, so maybe that's something I'll look further into. I wonder if they fail when things fail, like if you get hit by a missile. Probably do, don't they?
Well, I mean, when you lose control and you hear hydraulics failure, then yes, they can fail.
Right, so we think these are accurate. That's all there is to it, really. Again, the actual modelling of the hydraulic system in the F-15 low fidelity model will probably fairly low compared to a high fidelity model. Oh, look, that switch works. Canopy unlocked. That works. Right, nearly there. Oil, I'm guessing oil pressure gauges. I'm guessing in PSI. I don't know. Probably do work. I'm guessing you spool that engine up and that oil pressure will probably go up. I've got no reason to believe otherwise. So if you get hit and you get an oil leak from a missile, you probably will run out of oil, and it probably will be shown by this gauge. So it's probably something I should learn to look at. Almost finally, I've never actually fully worked this out. The big total pounds is all I ever look at.
The top clock hand needle indicates your internal fuel, which is the total of 13,900.
Roger.
And the bottom totalizer, it's called a totalizer. The number underneath indicates the total amount of fuel. So the main difference would be if you have external tanks.
Roger.
That would be higher than 13,900.
Hence the total is 21,500. So you've got a lot of that fuel is in the tanks. What's left and right? I don't think it's tanks because
it indicates different things. So you see that knob right underneath it. It like shows feed, left wing, internal wing, external wing,
okay.
And tank one. Yeah, so if, for example, you have it on feed tanks, it will show, left and right will show like different internal tanks.
Roger that.
Like and the values of different tanks.
And that would be good for weight balance and stuff. That is modelled in other high fidelity aircraft. It's not modelled in low fidelity aircraft. This knob doesn't work.
I think there are hotkeys for it, Cap, but
right.
You almost don't need to use it, yeah.
Roger, okay. 50% model, but certainly that knob can't turn to do it. So it's semi-modelled then, the tank balancing. That's fine, okay. Right down to the last bit. Jet fuel starter, that's not real, obviously. Cabin pressure? I think that's real, isn't it? That looks real.
It's a pressurization.
Yes, that probably is real. So if you take your canopy off, open your canopy at high altitude, that probably will go down, I expect. Emergency lever doesn't work, and here is warning lights. So if whatever you, I don't know, your air brake is out, a warning will appear here. Are they all modelled? Probably not. Probably just the main ones are modelled. It's low fidelity aircraft. And that really is about it. There might be control. No, that is all of the controls.
Might be I think there's a compass somewhere on the top as well of the canopy.
Stand by, looking. Ah, yes, we'll spot it. Oh, hang on, I've got to close my canopy. Down you come, your mother. So that is a compass. That does work. These mirrors, you can turn them off and on like that. They do work. I have them off because it helps the computer. There are warning lights here. They do work. They tell you like when you're being fired at and when you've got to lock on targets and stuff like that. They do work. Is there anything? Got to go do the HUD obviously, but no, that's pretty much there. Like I said, it's a low fidelity model, so only about 20% of the stuff is actually modelled. That thrust lever does work when I've got my engine on. And then there's a HUD. This, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty much 100% accurate. This tells you, maybe we'll leave the actual workings of the HUD to another video, but this tells you the all stuff that you need to know in an emergency: your altitudes, your speed, your compass, your attitude, your targeting, you know where the hostile is, your radar information, your missile information, your G information. So pretty much everything that's around here, to an extent, is simulated also up there. And you can change this to different modes as well. So 1 would be navigation, 2 would be, I don't know, I can't even remember, I don't press these very often. Is that BVR? It's BVR, isn't it? BVR, so that's Beyond Visual Range Combat, so that shows you different information. You've got 3, which is a line scan mode. You've got 4 is a bore sight mode. You've got 5, I don't think it does anything, I'm not sure. 6 is a heat seeker IR mode, you can see there. 7 is I think a flood mode. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So all I'm saying is they're there, and that's pretty well modelled, and you can see it kind of moves about realistically and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. And when you're flying an FC3 aircraft, most of your work is done there, or in the couple of MFDs that work. Almost nothing is done around these other things, apart from a couple of useful ones. So, unlike a high fidelity aircraft where everything is done, surprisingly, in all of these steam gauges and buttons, which is why they're so bloody hard to fly. Anyway, that's that. We're not going to drag on any longer. We've covered most of the stuff there. What we'll do is we'll go through the series of different planes over the next few months, and hopefully it's going to help someone out there. I think it's pretty simple. Thank you, and we'll see you later.